Uh, well, my clock says 2 minutes to 1, but Miss Princess, do you want to wait 2 more minutes, or do you want to go ahead and get started?
Let's go ahead and get started. Um, and what we'll do today, and again, thank each of you for participating in our community meeting. And our agenda today is very basic. We'll begin with the welcome from Dr. Harden, and then I'll give some comments, and we'll learn a bit about our panelists today. And then there's a few questions I have drafted for our panelists. After we hear from our panelists, then we'll open up the call for questions and discussion. So that's our flow today. And let's go ahead and get started with Dr. Harden. If you will bring us greetings, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. And some of us we're just coming back from the NAACP National Convention that just finished, and our marching orders, the title was The Fierce Urgency of Now. The fierce urgency of now. And so I want to thank everybody, for taking time to join the call today. And based on the purpose of our monthly meetings is to keep our members and people in the community engaged and up to date, knowing sharing information with the community about what we're doing with the NAACP and how we're working toward justice and equality. From the national level, the national office is very busy in litigation, working toward overturning policies that are not advantageous for the majority of the people. And hopefully you receive our weekly listserv, because we've been posting information that lets you know the types of legislation. And many of you on the call, you already know that the NAACP is more policy driven. We're not partisan. We are not a partisan organization. We look at policies that promote justice and equality for all. So that's our main purpose. And today our topic is on education, because the NAACP overall is an advocate for a quality public education for everyone. Many of you already on the call understand how education can, in a sense, be an equalizer, can help those who can better themselves through educational opportunities that leads to better employment opportunities, that leads to a higher quality of life. And I know those of you on the call already understand and know the history that pretty much prior to World War II, education was, and maybe earlier than that, but was set aside for the elite, the wealthy. Then one contributor after World War II, when we had the GI Bill, when returning veterans had money and would be able to go to school, kind of contributed to a wider middle class. So education is something that's very important to helping everyone, let's say, try to pursue that American dream. And with that, I would like to thank our panelists, our esteemed librarians who have a wealth of knowledge, and that, like I said, is education. Just repeating real quickly that education is one of the main pillars of the NAACP, and we are a policy-driven organization We are not partisan. We are not partisan. We are interested in policies that benefit the majority of the people. And then we have our Vice President, Princess Lucas Wilson, who will facilitate our conversation today. And with that, I will turn it over to our third Vice President to introduce the speakers. And thank you for joining us. And we hope this is engaging and interactive. We're just the facilitators. We're all in this together. So thank you very much for everyone who's on the call. Ms. Wilson.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Harden. I would just start off by saying I have always loved books and reading. So I'm so happy to bring this discussion on book banning and the impact, past and present, to our community meeting. And there are laws related to book banning and policies and practices across the country. Some laws have already been implemented. And we know that Project 2025, one of the aims is to seek a federal law banning books. And so this is a very timely topic. And librarians are in a unique position, in my opinion, to see firsthand some of the results of book banning and to address the problem head on. Not only being aware of the problems, but having the expertise and skills to give us some advice, some suggestions on how to move forward. So with that, I'll share a bit about our esteemed panelists. We have Verna Hamilton Washington, and Verna is a retired educator. During her 20 years plus tenure as an educator, she taught elementary, including language and arts and reading for middle school students. She taught adult education and some courses in reading at the community college. She has also volunteered as a reading tutor in several community programs. She also established a library at a local church, and she's an avid reader herself and a member of a local book club, and we share a membership in that book club. And so she is an avid reader. She reads all the books and has great comments, and we've been meeting for several years. Verna also holds degrees from Arizona State University and also certifications in language arts, library science, and reading. We also are excited and privileged to have Sheila Afnan-Mans, who has served as an academic librarian for over 20 years, dedicated to advancing student success through inclusive, equity-minded services. As department chair at Mesa Community College, she champions intellectual freedom, the right to read, and an unfettered access to information. Sheila's advocacy against censorship is rooted in a lifelong commitment to racial justice shaped by her faith. She believes book banning obstructs independent investigation and truth-telling necessary for justice and reconciliation. In 2022, Sheila received the NAACP Maricopa County Branch Racial and Social Justice Award for her work on the Public Discourse and Social Action Task Force of the Baha'i of Scottsdale. Sheila holds degrees and certifications from UCLA, the University of Arizona, the New School, and the University of Washington. Also, both Sheila and Verna serve as volunteers for the Maricopa County Branch. And not only do they volunteer in our educational and civic engagement programs, they also support our events and programs on a consistent basis. So thank you again, Sheila and Verna, for supporting us and volunteering to be a part of this event. So I have prepared a few questions to help guide our discussion. And as mentioned earlier, the questions, each panelist will answer the questions. So I'll share the questions briefly, and then we'll get into our presentations. So the questions are, as librarians, educators, and community volunteers, when considering the growing threat to truth, equity, and education that book banning poses, how does this threat continue to impact students and our communities? That's the first question. The second question is, in what ways do you think or have observed limiting access to diverse content continue to adversely affect the ability to empathize with people from different backgrounds? The next question, how has book banning affected intellectual freedom and free speech? And the last question, what can librarians, educators, civic organizations, and others do to address these challenges? And Verna, we'll start with you if you'll give us your thoughts and insights related to the questions that I had just listed.
Okay, I'll start with question one. I wrote briefly and I did some little thoughts about this. In this time of history, there have been so many distortions about the truth of our own history as a nation, the truth of contributions of people of color and women throughout this world, and the impact of those contributions towards advancements of our citizenship, advancement of our culture, advancement of our quality of life. And the lack of truth, not only is it false, but it also allows young people a sense of abandonment. They don't know the roots from which they come.
Mhm.
We don't allow them to think critically. We don't allow them to analyze the information because the information is not there. As a result, we are limiting their ability not only to be creative, but to be analytical and also to be forward thinking when it comes to the progress of others as well as themselves.
Okay, thank you. And if you'll address
Oh, I
the
really
other
go into
questions as
I'm
well?
sorry.
Yes.
I don't need to reread the question, just go to question two.
Mhm.
Question two deals with adversity, ability, and empathize. I do believe the lack of exposure limits one's experiences because you don't have an enrichment of culture. Not
Mhm.
everyone has the experience of living in a multicultural community where you have diversification with people with different languages, different ethnic backgrounds. They have maybe different experience how they got to this country to begin with. And some of those things you find out in reading.
Mhm.
Also, when you look at historical books, whether historical fiction or nonfiction, you find a basis of how the country actually started, what impacted as far as laws, how people lived, how people interact with one another. And when you don't have those, people don't have that connectedness. We all have human needs, basic human needs. But
Right.
when you don't have that understanding of how people live, experience life, their values, those things make a disconnect. We have a disconnect in our country right now. We can tell by the legislation coming out of Congress, there's a lack of empathy because we
Right.
have people who don't have a connection to people besides themselves.
Mhm.
And therefore, we see it day in and day out with the laws that are being legislated, companies that are being inundated with tariffs, also with programs that are being cut. The lack of empathy there shows that these individuals, they may have went to school, but they didn't get an education.
Okay.
Um, okay, number three, the book banning intellectual freedom. I believe, again, this limits critical thinking, analysis, or ways to improve one environment, the ability to feel, to think deeply, to use knowledge to positively impact others is one community responsibility. Also affects how you see the impact of leadership. When you don't allow yourself to think and allow people to think, not only do you limit their insight, you limit your own insight because you don't know what they can bring to the table. As a result, we have some things that may not have been discovered if people have not been allowed to think and be free in their thinking, be critical of what's going on around us. So I do think that is an issue as far as how it has stunted, it stunts intellectual freedom. The banning and the thwarting of intellectual freedom also restricts progress,
Mhm.
intellectual progress, emotional progress. Also, it affects the progress of one to grow individually, also all collectively, as a group. Number 4, what can librarians, educators, civic organizations do? Oh my gosh, it's a lot. You need to know policies about books. You may not be aware, but in 2022, former Governor Ducey signed into legislation a law that established how procedures could be for parents and individuals to challenge books. And also, this led to districts having the ability to establish a policy in which a parent could challenge a book or bring question to a school district. So individuals need to understand what's going on in their school districts, what the policies are, and their ability to question. Question doesn't mean it's going to be taken off the bookshelves, but you have the ability to challenge and to question. Also, we talked about changes with Project 2025. This year, in 2025, the ACLU filed a lawsuit on behalf of 12 students who were attending military schools. And they're not military colleges, but military schools on military bases. Because as a result, 596 books were removed from the shelves in 2025. And those books primarily dealt with people of color, people of different sexual orientation. Um, they were talking about stories that were not relevant. They didn't think were relevant. And as a result, that lawsuit has been filed. Now it hasn't been reconciled yet, but just think, these are students, these are people that are living around the world. They were in Japan, they were in Europe, not only in the United States, but these students had their rights taken away. And now therefore that's been challenged. So I'm hopefully we can find out what happens to that legislation, but it was filed this year by the ACLU. Also, going back to what can be done, I know some people may be organizing with PEN, and PEN is an organization that deals with poets, playwrights, editors, essayists, and also novelists. And PEN has been active with ALA, American Library Association. We're looking at how to help with the banning. And recently, since 2023, 9 states have passed anti-ban books legislation. Those include California, Colorado, Delaware, Illinois, Maryland, Minnesota, New Jersey, Vermont, and Washington. And this year, 19 more states are filing to get that same legislation in their on the books for their laws. And one of the things about this laws is that it says that it is to remove books for ideological, political, or discriminatory reasons. Those things should not take place. So hopefully we'll see these additional 19 states that are filing, those be successful in how to move towards removing the banning of books.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for that informative, excellent information and great update. And now we'll move to Sheila. Sheila, if you'll give your thoughts and insights related to the questions.
Yes, I sure will. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the NAACP for inviting me and for all the work, the tireless work it does, which I've had the chance to witness firsthand in some cases. I appreciate, Verna, your sharing all of the public policy and legislative efforts being made nationwide to try to protect our rights. I became a librarian, I don't want to say later in life, but I was in my 30s by the time I realized this is what I wanted to do. And after bumbling around for maybe a decade, trying to figure out what to do, I realized I'd found my people in the world of librarianship. And a lot of it has to do with how the professional standards, which really flow from our Constitution, Article 1, the freedom of speech, and expression and religion and all of that, as a fundamental tenet of democracy. And then I was kind of reminding myself, so we have the Constitution, which was ratified in like 1790, 1789, something like that. And then there's the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I might look down for a minute because I've got a couple of notes. And this was ratified in 1948, and Article 19 of this Declaration of Human Rights says, everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression, freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media. Article 12 goes on to say that no one shall be subjected arbitrarily with interference to their privacy. So this concept of the freedom to read. So the library, the American Library Association, which is in the American tradition, our professional tenets flow from these documents and these sentiments and laws and policies. The freedom to read, the freedom to investigate, the freedom to express, are rights that are considered inalienable or universal, inherent. I learned a word, non-derogable, which means they're protected unconditionally, not subject to government regulation. They cannot be denied, they cannot be subordinated. Of course they can, but this quest within the human consciousness, within the human heart, to be able to live in freedom, live in justice, live in truth, even when it's under great threat, never fully goes away. And that's evidenced in humanity's history. So the fact that I'm part of a profession that explicitly works to maintain these values is tremendously rewarding for me as a person. Censorship. So this is kind of something I thought of, and I'm not fully following the questions directly, but I think I'm going to tap into each of them. I read somewhere where it says censorship, which censorship can come in various forms, right? We can ban things and remove them. We can redact elements of documents or books. We can label things with our own biases and make access restricted, thereby putting a negative tinge on content that can affect how people feel about accessing it or not. So, and then of course, in the most dramatic way, we can burn, we can destroy and burn. So this idea of censorship and book burning really is asking the question. I read this thing, it says, who censorship is asking, who gets to tell the story? Whose story are we actually listening to? And it's not any coincidence or shock to say that censorship is not applied in any sort of obviously equitable way. Censorship leans into, for the most case, minority voices, minority lives, minority experiences, and it works to, there can be a lot of reasons people censor. There can be fear, there can be a need to control, there can be religious and political agendas. But what censorship does achieve is it reinforces the current, or maybe what was the word? There's a word I had, I can't think of it. It reinforces the common and current narratives and ways of viewing the world that really are predicated in many ways on structural inequalities. So if I can control what goes on the shelf, metaphorically and literally, what is printed in the book or what is made accessible or not, if I can control the archives where these original records reside, upon which histories are written, if I can control these things, I can control the general orthodox narratives that are accepted. I can control what the curriculum says to our students in K through 12 and even into higher education. And that's a lot of power. So censorship asks who gets to tell the story, and it's telling a story that really doesn't reflect the experiences of a large majority of people. And it's not really satisfying. And I'm saying what is it? I'm talking in the American context. And also I want to disclose I'm not an expert. I am a librarian. So like Ms. Verna, I am aware of certain policies and laws, but I don't purport to be a full-blown expert on this. But the current story or stories that are being told are not meeting the needs of the rich diversity of our society. Now that could sound a little esoteric in and of itself. So when I think about students, and I'm in a community college library and have been for over 20 years, I think about the diversity of humans who flow into our buildings and what they're looking for. What they're looking for academically for academic success, what they're looking for personal success. And I think we all can understand if you are not reflected on the shelves, if stories that represent you are not readily available, it reinforces your sense of invisibility, non-importance. And even when you know that's not true, because maybe you're getting your empowerment outside of the formal educational system or wherever, from your family, your faith, it becomes a terrible source of frustration. So we all lose when the story is so limited. And this impedes progress. It impedes individual and collective progress when the truth of who we are culturally, scientifically, and every otherwise is so curtailed because of different forms of censorship. I came across something and I'm going to share this. I am keeping my eye on the clock, so somebody jump in if they need to. Censorship rejects the fundamental premise of democracy, that ordinary individuals like myself, by exercising our critical judgment, will select the good over the bad. This is the premise that undermines the jury system, right? A jury of our peers. Censorship sort of slaps that notion in the face and creates a chilling effect where people actually begin to voluntarily curtail expression and avoid accessing information to avoid scrutiny, embarrassment, things like that. Censorship lacks faith in free people. But, and this was interesting to me, it kind of put a little meat on the bones of how this harms us, harms students, harms our collective progress that students should be a part of for themselves individually and the society. Without this freedom of privacy, with the freedom to privacy, read and write, speak, express, assemble, question, investigate, research, to teach and learn in an unfettered atmosphere, new ideas and discovery of a better understanding, AKA moving towards greater truth, these things are stunted. The freedom to read and write, and this is what caught my attention. I'm kind of paraphrasing from something I read because I read a lot of stuff. The freedom to read and write is almost the only means of making generally available those ideas and manners of expression that can initially command only a small audience. So when things are being discovered in the new, they usually are sort of concentrated amongst a few people. And it's only through the act of reading and writing and sharing that it becomes more generalized. The freedom to read and write and research and express is the natural medium for the new idea and the untried voice from which the original contributions is let me read it again. The freedom to read and write and research and express is the natural medium for which the new idea and the untried voice stretch out to the larger society and result in growth. These freedoms, read, write, express, share, in an unfettered atmosphere, free of the chilling impacts of surveillance and privacy, they are essential to extending the discussion that serious thought requires. And then I thought this was interesting. It made me think of those Apple questions, Apple phones where it says think differently. Creative thought is by definition new. What is new is different. The bearer of every new thought is a rebel. So censorship is stunting the flow of this newness, of new ideas, of new ways of thinking, whether it's through the humanities or the sciences or social sciences. And it's stunting these human capacities, these things that live in our consciousness and our hearts to seek true meaning from the world around us. Freedom, on the other hand, yeah.
Sheila, if you will, this is great
Yeah.
information. You're covering all the questions. You've talked about history, censorship, limited access, freedom, etc. But before our
Yes.
time is up, I'd
Yes.
like for you to address and think about what can we do more moving forward as librarians, educators, organizations, people. I didn't want to lose the opportunity for you to speak to that piece. But the information you're giving is great.
You bet.
Wonderful.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. So, and Verna was referencing certain examples. So I'm gonna, yeah, things that we can do. So I thought about that. And even in the place of my current employment, because of federal legislation that's come down, for the first time ever in my career as an academic librarian, because we generally are protected a little bit more than public and school libraries, because we also have elements from the American Association of University Professors that protect tenure and freedom of intellectual freedom. Those I see being eroded. We're being questioned about the words we use to describe things, the content on our research guides. Huge steps backwards. So what can we do? And I'm glad that I was asked to be on this panel because it got me thinking. In libraries and academic libraries, the difference between censorship and selection is rooted in policy. So she's our collection development librarian. We've discussed this a little bit. We need to make sure that our policies are in tip-top shape. Policies for why and how we select the materials we do. That helps us to justify to administrators and the public at large why we select the materials we do, which is largely driven to support the curriculum, support the things that are being taught at the college. It also helps us to mitigate against our own biases. I am a human being, I have my own beliefs. But those individual beliefs should not color or distort things I'm collecting for a diverse population and a diverse curriculum. So having our own policies in place, as well as policies that dictate the procedure when an item is challenged. Because if you don't have good policies in place, you're going to react out of fear and concern instead of knowing, well, hey, we have a policy for that, and this is how we handle when and if somebody or a group is challenging the materials we have on our shelves. So we need to be ready in-house through our policies and making sure everyone in the library is aware of those things. Community-wise, I think any of us who care about these things, there's a lot we can do just in our own lives. And I was going to share a couple of examples and nonprofit organizations I'm going to share, and then then I will end so we can go into the question and answer. So for example, I think one of the big motivators, the Baha'is of Scottsdale, along with the NAACP and a lot of other groups are very like-minded. We've participated in, and some of you are aware of, what's called I Too Sing America Black History Month Film Festival. We've done them 3 years in a row. Of course, I Too Sing America is Langston Hughes' beautiful poem that talks about how every American deserves and needs a place at the table. And that is to bring history and discussion that might not always happen in the default ways we live to the forefront, so we have a chance to learn about these things. I'm going to quickly say, I see these things bubbling up. Some of you might know about the 1619 Project. The Equal Justice Initiative, they have gone into historic archives and they've resurrected the histories of when thousands of people, enslaved people, were lynched. And they put the names and the dates and the locations, and they've built a beautiful memorial that is in Montgomery, Alabama. And this is an example of the opposite of censorship, right? It's having the courage to reconcile with our history, to realize that healing and true peace, true justice, true unity comes when we have the courage to be truthful about where we've been so that we can move forward in a better way. And there are so many things, like, and I'll just quickly end with this. Certain books like The Hate You Give, which was made into a movie, you know, that book is one that has recently been challenged so many times in schools and public libraries. But when we deny our young people access to that book, another one is an indigenous history of the United States. And when we think about what's gone on with indigenous communities, with boarding schools and murdered and missing women, that all of these atrocities happen because information has been scrubbed or denied or censored, and we're not allowed, and our young people aren't allowed to grapple with the realities of where we've been so we can move forward in a stronger way together. And a kind of a dramatic example is in archives. The Ottoman Empire, which is now Turkey, has gone to great lengths to not release, for example, the archival records on the Armenian genocide, which took place around 1900. Why? Because you control these records, you censor these records, then you control the narratives that we all live under, which keep in place certain power structures that really are predicated on oppressing a large number of populations and pieces of humanity. So I think there's a lot that we can do as individuals, whether it's hosting a book club in our own neighborhood, doing larger things with organizations working together, and then on a professional level, it's all about, making sure that we're ready, knowing our policies, and having the courage to not back down, even when it's an administrator who's knocking on your door, asking you to justify why you collect the things that you collect. So I'll end there, and I hope I kind of touched on all the pieces. Yes.
We can't hear you, Princess. We still can't hear you.
You're on mute, Princess. Miss Princess, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Someone came in. I didn't want you all to hear the doorbell and all that. So sorry. Again, thank you so much, Sheila. That was very insightful, great information. And before we go forward, I was just sharing that The Maricopa County Branch NAACP continues to work closely with the Baha'i of Scottsdale on events that help to mitigate the effects of book banning, censorship, miseducation, lack of education about history and about certain groups. And so it's an ongoing effort. And I think that part of suggestions we may give to communities and other organizations is that it is definitely an ongoing effort, and it needs to be viewed that way. So thank you so much to each of you, and I apologize for being on mute for a second there. So now we'll open up for questions. Anyone with questions about the areas we've discussed related to truth and equity, the impact, looking at empathy, intellectual freedom and speech, and then what we can do. So Dr. Hardin, did you have a question?
No, not at this time, not at this moment.
Okay, I
Just
saw
open it
you.
up to the audience to see. if
Yeah, I just saw your name thing came up. Okay. All right.
This is Phyllis, and I thought I'd chime in a little bit,
Okay.
representing the genealogy aspect of the book banning and the banning of history. And I took some notes, so I'm going to refer to my side here. I took a phrase that Sheila said, who gets to tell the story? And I always rely on this African proverb, and it may be my wording a little bit, but until the lion tells the story, the hunter will always be the hero. So in essence, you got to know your history. If you do not know your history, you're not going to be able to know where you've come from. And you're not going to get your history if somebody's telling the story for you. So you've got to go dig. And like she said in the archives, you got to dig deep, and you've got to get the story. And the way, as a genealogist, we do that. We dig down and we have our presentations, as you all know, but we try to share the history. And even sometimes when we try to share the history, you need to fact check us, because you got to know your history. And that's about it for me. So
Okay, that's great. I love that quote.
yes.
Yeah, it says it all, really.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, I wanted to add that not only can you support books, but you also can support independent bookstores. There are a lot of different bookstores that sell a variety of multicultural books that support different lifestyles, different cultures, and those are important to have. You can also charge your own book exchange. If you read a lot of books, I collect a lot of children's literature, and I've exchanged them. You can do that among your friends and families. You know, we give a lot of toys to kids and we give a lot of electronics. Give them a good book. You also can have book discussions and those things among the family members, and you can create your own family histories. You can write those and share those. Those things cannot be lost, but they can be shared. You can pass those on. But the big thing is that there are means in which you can support the reading of books, the expression of different cultures, the exchanging of ideas, the understanding your history, and understanding your own history. We have a lot of oral history. We need to write it down, and we need to share it with other people as well.
Yeah. So, Ms. Princess and everybody, I really, really like this ideal.
Great
I'm
suggestions.
combine the suggestion from Ms. Verna and from Sheila, because I think earlier Sheila suggested, you know, what can we do? And I believe she said farm book clubs. And so if we combine what Ms. Verna just said about maybe books, buy books, rather than us giving, you know, what do you call it? Whenever we're giving gifts to people in our families, maybe we consider giving them some of these books. You know, and I want to just iterate what I said at the very beginning of our session, reminding everybody that the NAACP is an organization that is focused on policies that help create equity and inclusion and justice for everyone, and helping people are eloquent, you know, talk talks right just a few minutes ago, you both spoke to that in terms of how important it is for people to understand their history, because that leads to, you know, their self-confidence, who they are and where we're going. But I just wanted to reiterate, I think the call to action right here was give books as gifts, perhaps, is one way that we can individually address this situation that we're in, as well as, you know, forming book clubs as we might do, and helping people see that this understanding our history is part of advocacy, you know, and understanding where we're going and the times we're in. Yeah, so.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Dr. Harden. And just briefly before I get to Sheila, um, we did have a book club within the Maricopa County Branch, NAACP, where we reviewed books quarterly, and the books were intended to help motivate people to continue to work toward social justice and equity. And so that's another thing we can look at, you know, if that's seen as something that would be helpful. But they were quarterly, and I've spoken to some of you on the call about the quarterly book club, and you have shown an interest in it. So I just wanted to say that. Sheila has her hand up.
Let me just emphasize that again, Princess. Please, if you guys are interested, because it was about 2 years ago we launched. Miss Princess was the facilitator. We understood from an advocacy point of view that reading books, and this was really before the book banning really became full blown the way it is now, and it would be love to resurrect that again if we have enough support. So.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay,
Great idea.
thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Sheila.
Love the ideas. I meant to earlier introduce my mother-in-law. This is Marilee Benson. She is visiting us from Seattle. And a lot of you know my husband, Willie. We're actually in the Mayo Hospital right now. He's recovering quite well from a little procedure, and she's down visiting. She adopted him when he was, I mean, not formally, but very closely when he was a young 17 years old. So anyway, she has a question or comment.
Sure.
Just to give you a quick background, I'll try not to bore you, but I was raised overseas. I've lived amongst people of different cultures my whole life. Not surprising, after several other careers, I ended up as an educator like the rest of my family, and all of us have taught English or Danish as a second language. We call it English language learners. And my sister lives in Denmark, and strangely, she ended up teaching Danish that way. We all have the problem. Pause for a moment, realizing that all educators, the primary goal for educators is to expand information. And now that I travel a great deal and live in Seattle, where we have a huge influx of people from India, China, and other Asian countries, and of course, the Latin American area. But the worry that I have isn't just banning books, it's how do we expand our information into other languages? Because as a language teacher, I realize my close young people that I've kept in touch with now for over 20 years, I realize that some of them, although they seem to have English down, they don't understand everything that we do as first language learners. And so within your goals of looking into banning and so forth, if you could keep that in the back of your mind, we have this huge population and they're American citizens, so they will be here. And so I just hope that, I don't have the answer, sadly, but it just strikes me as being amongst other people who would like to forward information through all of these means, that is one. I just don't know how we get them together with us, other than making access to books in their language or a language that they understand. just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. And kind of depending on where you live, there are diverse populations. I was part of being an executive director of a faith-based organization, and we had a lot of people from Africa and assumed that they could communicate and talk, whatever. And we learned quickly we were wrong. You know, they spoke like 5 languages, and one group didn't get along with the other group. You have those nuances too, if you can become aware of it, and don't make assumptions about people just based on their appearance, that they can connect because they look alike, etc. So I think that might be kind of the first step, and then trying to learn a bit more about that person individually can help. But that's very important information. So thank you so much. I see Dr. Westenberg has her hand up. You have a question, Dr. Westenberg?
Actually, I have a comment.
Okay.
I've enjoyed the dialogue here and the sharing of ideas. As one who for over 30 years has taught African American literature, American literature, and also recently rap literature of the oral tradition, reading is certainly significant. And it is a form of communication. When I think in terms of it, we have several modes of communication. And Sheila, what you said, I think is very relevant when you correlated it to the Constitution, because it is, in fact, taking rights away from us. Our communication skills, we came into the world, first breath, we cried, and that was communicating. We were generating a message at that point, and we began to embellish it, and we write, and we read, and we dialogue. And it is a component of a larger agenda. What is happening with books is a component of a larger agenda. It is anti-democratic. And we have to find a way, as some suggestions have been made, to continue sharing information about our past. But it not only gives you information about the past, it provides you with information for the future. Reading can also tell us the potential of where we can go as well. And so I just wanted to throw that in there, but it is simply anti-democratic, and it is a part of a larger agenda.
Okay, yeah, excellent points. Thank you, Dr. Westenberg. I see Sheila's hands up. Is anyone else? Let me see.
I wanted to point out that John has his hand up. So if he could go, and then I have one short little comment, if I could.
Okay, John, I didn't see your hand.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I got it up there like I should have, but I want to
Okay.
go back to Ms. Washington's comment about where other states have passed laws to protect the banning, to protect against the banning of books, and whether or not the state of Arizona has any kind of pending legislation or ongoing looking into passing laws that would prevent that policy, that undemocratic policy, from spreading here in our state. Is there any information going on in the state legislature to enact, like in several other states, as Ms. Washington had shared with us, here for our state? I know it's an uphill battle, but it's still a battle that has merit and is needed. And even the battle creates the conversation.
Okay, I don't know if Verna has additional comments.
I'm not aware of any new legislation that's come into place. I know the law that Ducey signed took effect in 2023. Did not read of any legislation that came out of this past session of 2024, 2025. But the legislation did come out in 2023, made reference regarding schools, and also it was primarily dealing with sexual information and that kind of thing. But
Okay.
also it did allow for policies to be enacted for book challenges. So there would be ways in which if you wanted to question a book, the book could not automatically be removed. It could be challenged, but it wouldn't
Challenge.
actually be removed because it was challenged. And it was up to districts to establish policies on which people could question the possible removal or the retention of a book. But to my knowledge, I don't think anything came out of this session, out of the 25 session or 24 session.
I guess what I was maybe I'm not sure what's the other states that you mentioned. It seems to me that they were being proactive to keep books from being banned, and what were perhaps some of their good best practices that we might consider here in our state.
I think that would be up to you to contact with your representative starting there, because that's how the book was introduced in Arizona. It came out of Hoffman of the East Valley, who I think takes in maybe Mesa, Gilbert, that area, maybe
Mhm.
East Chandler. He's the one that introduced the one of the legislative bills that actually was in the signed by Ducey, which I think was 2495 HB or Senate bill. And so that that law also impacted charter schools as well as public schools. And I can just read a brief thing to it. It says, where it reads here, beginning January 23, procedures by which parents have access to the school's library collection of available books and materials, and parents may receive a list of books and materials borrowed from the library of their children. And if they can actually go through and they can look and they can question, but they also have to make available, the school district has to have some kind of policy in place in which people can question and challenge. That's part of the whole legislation. But as far as Arizona, it has to start with your representative, because that's where the law is introduced by your person who represents your district.
Thank you.
And that's a very practical way to address the issue. So good. A great suggestion. There are some questions in the chat. One is from, let me see if I
I
can
can
pull it.
read it.
Okay, yeah, that would be easier. Thank you, Dorothy.
So basically, I noticed that everyone on this chat is older, and I'm in that older age as well, because I'm 55. But my question is, because I give my grandbabies books for Christmas and birthdays and stuff, but now we're talking about the whole community. So how can we reach our young girls, our young mothers and fathers who actually have the kids in school, going to schools and colleges and stuff? Are y'all reaching out to them to let them know as well about this? So because I could go to my grandson's school and sit and look at their policy and voice my opinion and be by my daughter-in-law's side, but we're going to need more than just me out there. So how are y'all reaching these schools and these mothers and fathers? Are they aware of this? I know they are, but can we reach more, I guess I could say? And then the juvenile prison, because I have a son in prison. Is the juvenile kids affected by all this book banning and stuff too? So that's my question and thought.
Okay, I think overall, just briefly, in terms of our branch, the Maricopa County Branch, NAACP, we have had numerous efforts to reach young people on a variety of topics, and am looking for maybe some future planning around scholarships for books for young people. And I know that there are a number of retired educators or current educators on the call. And whenever we get the opportunity, kind of add some enlightening information or information that will hopefully give students insight, or at least get them to think a bit more critically about certain issues. without giving it a acronym. You can incorporate kind of the tenets and concepts in your conversations with younger people that can hopefully help to pique their curiosity where they want more information. It's gotten to be a bit tricky in academic settings, but I know as a community organization, I know we have a few people who are educators, and that's a big part of their focus. And so we try to do what we can. And there's other organizations like and some of the things we do in our branch. I've been a part of reviewing scholarship applications, um, for other organizations, things like that. So wherever you can kind of get in, and it takes all of us. And I'm so happy to hear that you are giving your grandchildren books and including people, but it takes all of us, and the approaches need to be multifaceted. Again, it goes back to seeing it as an ongoing effort, as something we need to continue to do. So I hope that addresses your question a little bit. But just wanted to let you know there are ongoing efforts. And I I managed the East Valley for young adults. Many were duly adjudicated, and we used to take books to young people who were incarcerated because they didn't have anything to do. So we take books to them. And I'm sure other organizations do that. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling.
Hey, Princess, Miss
Yeah,
Princess,
yes.
I tried to raise my hand, but my technology isn't working. I don't know, but I would just wanted to say that I like that question, and thanks very much. It's kind of like, what is our branch doing about getting the word out to youngsters, young
Mhm.
folks, intergenerational? So I would just share that uh, on our listserv, we have over 500 people that get our information on a weekly basis. So what are we doing? We are pushing out information on a weekly basis to over 500 people. And it's each individual has to determine, I think, what is their level of motivation to contribute to the cause. And each one of us can do a little bit. We don't all have to do huge things, but when you think about the fact that if we get information out to like over 500 people on a weekly basis, we have like 18 people on the call right now. So we're trying to do our part, and we're hoping that folks on the call will help us get the word out. And also I just would like to add is that in terms of how do we, our branch, interact with youth, we just came back, I said, from the national convention. There were 15 uh, students aging around 12 high school students who participated in what the national NAACP calls AXO. Uh, and let me just give you the website, naacp.org. I won't spend a lot of time talking about AXO, but it's a program that promotes youth in different categories. So there was 18 students from the state of 16 students from the state of Arizona that went to compete in this national competition in AXO. And we came home with one silver medalist. AXO is Academic Competitions of the Minds, actually. Please look it up. As well as I just wanted to talk about the fact that our branch gave out about $8,000 in scholarships. So just last year alone. So we try very much to make it intergenerational, which I think is very important. As the Miss West, as you mentioned, is what are we doing to make sure we include youth? So we try to actively work with the youth councils and support them. And one way that we tangibly supported them was through scholarships last year, and supporting them when they went to the National AXO competition. And this is where they compete in things like performing arts and technology and different.
Business, yeah. Mhm,
Go ahead. Yes. So,
mhm.
yeah, we have to keep reaching out to the youth. That's an
Right.
important point. Mhm.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to share one of the comments in the chat that just moved. Give me a second here. From Quincy. It says, I'm Quincy Adams. I am 28, and I would say that we do really care about books. Not only are they making it hard to find books about Black history, but also uh, LGBTQ stories. I've had some success with virtual book clubs and using social media to talk about these issues. So I thought sharing that from a 28-year-old might be helpful, and how we're thinking about young people and sharing information with them. And there are other comments also in the chat, but we're at 2:04, so I don't know how long we want to stay on the call. But there's a few more comments. Tucson has college. They work for inmates. So I guess there's a program in Tucson where they work with inmates, and one person has gotten an AA degree. So those are just a couple of comments. I see Dr. Westenberg's hand.
Yes, thank you. In response to getting to young people with books, there is an activity in which I am involved with another organization with an elementary school district. And twice a year, they go into the school with about 500 books into a room. And they are select books by category, and classes of students come in with their teacher, and the students can go from table to table and select a book. It makes it exciting to them that they have the opportunity to choose a book, and they get a bookmark. And of course, go back to their room, and generally they write a thank you note back to the organization for providing it. But I say that to say that if someone wanted to engage with their school to do something such as that, or to request if it could be done, that would be a wonderful way to get a book into the hand of a kindergartner through 8th grader with some degree of excitement with them coming in. They know it's the day, they know they're coming in, they know they're getting a book, and they go through, and it's a big decision for them. And so I just wanted to throw that out as a possible activity that could be done to get books into the hands of young people.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Westenberg. That sounds like a fun activity. So thank you for students. Well,
I'm sorry. I was wondering if I could piggyback really quick. I put it in the chat, but I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at this concept of little libraries or little neighborhood libraries. If you could Google it, and there's some of them are so cute, and it's where in a neighborhood, within a certain just micro geographic location, somebody builds a cute little structure. It might look like an oversized birdhouse. And what you do there is people are free to donate and borrow books with no checking out or anything. And those can be real fun in a neighborhood. And then you can put, stock them with things that, represent diverse voices. So I've thought about that I don't know how that go over in my neighborhood, but I've thought about doing it.
yeah.
Okay.
I've
Sorry, I
seen
got
those in the media. Verna has a question.
No, I have a comment. I was going to tell Quincy, you can look at a local bookstore in Phoenix here, like Grassroots. You'll find quite a bit of books that'll cover culture as well as some with more diverse populations. Also, Changing Hands has a good selection.
Changing Hands.
So you can look at, they have a location in Phoenix as well as Tempe. Grassroots is located like near 12th Street and Washington. So these are 2 local bookstores within Phoenix area that you can actually find books that may meet your needs. But if you also do just a quick search online, there are some other book exchange community events or community organizations that you can also find those kind of books. So hopefully those 2 at least get you started.
Okay, all right, excellent, thank you.
Wow, thank you. I'm gonna need a legal pad with all this information. Thank you.
Well, it's a huge topic, and we thought we'd touch on it today. And we've had some excellent expertise from our librarians, a lot of great information. And we've, I think, touched on democracy, social justice, equity, censorship, just a wide range of topics, and got some practical suggestions to move forward. So it's been a great, productive meeting, I feel. And again, so thankful to our panelists, community participants, all the participants from the Baha'i of Scottsdale. I will ask Dr. Harden if she has any closing remarks. You're on mute, Dr. Harden.
Okay, yes, just to say thank you very much to everyone for joining the meeting today. We do this the 4th Saturday of the month. It's our way of it's our way of giving you updates of what we're doing, and hope you'll join us again the 4th Saturday of August. And if each one of us does a little bit, what do you call it? What is that? The power of one? It was a movie, right? Each one of us do a little bit, we can conquer this huge situation that we find ourselves in. And so even if it is giving a book to a young child or just passing the word on, we try to have these monthly sessions that follow the pillars of the NAACP and discussions about, the ways that we can all work together to make it a better place for everyone. And, all I have to say is thank you, because everybody has given such great suggestions and comments, and hope to see you the 4th Saturday of each month on the call. So that, thank you very much. And I'll turn it back over to you, Ms. Wilson, if you
Yeah.
have anything else for the
Okay.
way to end
Yeah,
this.
I just wanted to apologize for not getting to all that information in the chat. There's some great information there, but we ran out of time. So I wanted to apologize, but it's been a great meeting, and with all the interest, maybe we can do it again so we can have an opportunity to maybe address some of the comments and questions in the chat. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Verna and Ms.
All
Sheila.
right.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.
And Mr. John, hi.
And
You're welcome.
Yeah, okay, all righty.
Thank you, Princess.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you,
Have a
Verna.
great afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Very good.
Good
Enjoyed it.
Saturday, everyone.